Hi guys, Tugri here with a new video, and this video is a video I wanted to make because, again, I feel like there's a big conversation currently between like classic, Mr. Pandora Classic, retail, classic plus, and the conversation is that a lot of people are not playing classic, either are not playing because they don't like the gameplay, and that's fair, or they say they don't have the time to play classic and they prefer to play something like retail where they can jump in and out without having the issue of falling too hard behind, or don't see really the appeal between leveling taking too much time compared to the end game. I'm going to be the contrarian here. I feel like if you don't have a lot of time, I think classic is one of those games that actually is fine to be played on. I think a lot of the things that are good about classic is that it respects your time a bit, because the leveling takes time. I'm talking about vanilla here. The leveling takes time from 1 to 60, and the leveling is the game. Now, a lot of people do skip a lot of that stuff with like boosting, and that's on Blizzard to actually do stop that for next fresh. I hope they do that for Classic Plus or for the next fresh. I don't know if they're going to do that. But really, the leveling is the journey, is the game, is the, I would say, the whole experience of Classic. And then you have the end game, which I find it to be a lot of the raid logging. And even if you don't have a lot of time, you can raid log basically and still get like gear if you are like into that, or if you're like into PvP. Obviously, anniversary is a bit weird because the AV meta is even more a thing than how it was in 2019. I felt like there was more Warzone Gulch and AB going on. But if you want to do PvP, you can just boot up AV and like stand in the middle and fight people, I guess. I am into PvP, so for me, that's the part that kind of sucks on anniversary. I feel like they could do way more since the factions are balanced. If for the first time ever, the factions are balanced and are forced balanced. I feel like they could do way more, but that's like an issue on their part. But I never felt like I had to spend a lot of time to get like far on classic. Obviously, if you're like an alcoholic and you play like 8 alts or whatever, you do need a lot of time. I feel like with just one character, if right now I want to play classic, I can actually do it on my own time and raid log if I want to. I can do some PvP, and yeah, obviously for ranking you will need to like play every single day for a few weeks, because else you will not go far, and it is what it is. But I do believe like all of the exaggeration between like you need to have a lot of time or you need to be on social security or whatever to be playing classic is a bit redundant, because I feel like if you look classic as a broad game, which is the leveling and then the end game, then it doesn't really matter if you like spend 2 hours into leveling instead of like doing 2 hours of like Mythic Plus on retail. Obviously, it depends on what you like. If you prefer the gameplay around retail, that's okay. I personally prefer the gameplay around Classic and Miss Pandaria, for example. Even though Miss Pandaria, a lot of people are going to like to turn an eye onto me and say like, how the hell do you compare Classic to Miss Pandaria? The truth is like it is not comparable, but if you like compare Classic to retail, I think like Miss Pandaria is really closer to Classic than retail, even though some people do say it's like a retail minus. I really like, you just need to boot up a BG or a dungeon and see how much is going on your screen to feel like it is completely another game. Like on retail, you can have 10,000 pets literally. Like a demonology warlock can have like 20 summons if they're doing like the right rotation. They can have 20 summons. A DK, unholy DK can have easily up to 6-7 pets. Obviously not controlled ones, but like summoned because of Apocalypse or Army of the Dead or Abomination or the Gargoyle. You have like all the skeletons that are also popping here and there. There's multitude of things that are like cluttering on your screen. And then the amount of debuffs, the amount of buffs that you have, the amount of effects, the amount of AoE, the amount of like spells that are like builders and spenders. Literally every single spec is like that. A builder and a spender, a builder and a spender. I feel like truly you cannot really compare it with Miss Pandaria. Now Miss Pandaria is on the way to retail, so if you like talking about Warlords of Draenor and then Legion, which I think from Legion that is the WoW, like World of Warcraft 3.0 pretty much. Although you can say it is like from Classic to Wrath, then you have from Kata to WoD, and then you have from Legion to Shadowlands, and then you have obviously Dragonflight and The War Within, and probably Midnight and the last World Soul Saga expansion. That's a whole different gameplay and I would say design, because they're like looking into more doing less daily stuff, less weekly stuff, less player power that you have to grind every single time. That's something else. But if you talk about like purely your time spent and what is like used for, well, I personally prefer using my time on either Classic or on Miss Pandaria compared to retail. I feel like retail, everything you're doing is like way less meaningful, and you could say the same for Miss Pandaria, because obviously it feels like it's less meaningful because everything is like a bit too like it's less of an MMO where you need to tap into the different stuff to get like the ideal gear for your character. For example, if you're doing PvP, you only need PvP, and as a PvPer I like that, but I understand like if I wanted to be seen as an MMO, they actually want me to drag into PvE to get like that one piece of loot that might just make my character way better. That is what an MMO is supposed to be, like making you go left, right, and center to get the best amount of gear possible for your character optimization. That's, I think, is done right in Classic. For example, in Classic, your pre-raid base could be coming from the recipes or the professions. So, for example, Devilsaur set. That's something that you will need to grind if you are a warrior or a rogue or whatever. You will need that if you want to have the hit. You will also need quest items. For example, the quest chain from Tyrion in EPL for your neck. You have obviously your dungeon loot. You have obviously some maybe pre-raid bits that you can buy from the auction house from the raids. You have obviously all the BOEs that you could have, for example, Crowblade, for example. And then you have also your PvP gear. For example, Don Julio's from AV is like a very good pre-raid, or if not a raid bis, until you have like the utter bis that you could have for that specific spec or class. And the same for weapons, and the same for ranking gear and whatnot. I feel like you have to tap into different stuff. I think ranking gear, like I said, it has its like faults. I think it is like not seasonal, so it means that the power level is really high until it gets outscaled. And if everyone has it, obviously it just diminishes the gear from raids. I am a PvPer, so obviously I want PvP gear to be relevant, but it is way too relevant in PvE to call it a PvP gear at this point. It feels like more of a PvE gear. That's how I see it currently. So it actually overrides the need of raiding at one point for warriors, for example. But that is obviously my opinion. I do believe like if I want to spend my 2 hours per day or 1 hour per day or 30 minutes per day, I feel like I have way more things meaningful to be done on Classic or Miss Pandaria Classic. For example, Miss Pandaria Classic, I can do some arenas if I have a maid. I can do some BGs to get some honor. I can do some Celestial Dungeons, for example, to gear up for PvE. Now for raiding, obviously it takes around 3 hours. Then you need to plan your weeks around that, and that's okay. I think it is an MMO, so you want that part of planning around and like looking forward to something. Like that's something that some games don't have. That's the truth. Like I don't plan around, or I don't look forward to my League of Legends games. I want to play League of Legends, I'll just put it up. I don't care about anyone or anything around me. I just want to play it, so I'll be booting it up. It is like a very solo experience, and you can play with friends. That's for sure happening as well in League of Legends, and I do play some flex sometimes with my friends, or I do some clash in League of Legends to play in like a sort of tournament setting. That's fine, but it's not an MMO. I don't feel like I'm progressing my character. I don't feel like I'm progressing with my time. It feels like it's a one-off. I play it and that's it. I do gain maybe a bit of rating, depending on how I perceive rating at that time. It is well worth it, or it is like like just a fun moment, like the same I would eat a kebab and have fun at that specific moment, but 2 days later I will not even think about the kebab I ate 2 days ago, for example, right? So it's a fast food experience in my opinion. Like it's like, for example, if you're eating, you go to McDonald's, you eat, you're not really thinking about the McDonald's you ate 2 days ago. You're not saying, oh man, that was really good, like wow, what an experience. That's not something you have. And that's what I have currently with retail, where I can play it, but it feels like meaningless. To a certain extent, it feels like fast food to me. It feels like I'm digesting it and that's it. I'm not thinking about it anymore. And except for the rating part, and obviously since I am a content creator, it is like merging into one thing, which is like some progression towards my YouTube. But that's it. Like if I wasn't doing content, I would not even like turn an eye onto retail. Now I am with a broader like mind, and like I think holistically about the game, so I am open to retail being good, and I found retail to be very good in Dragonflight until they disappointed me with queue times, for example. But like I never felt like it was an MMO anymore. Like the last time I felt it like to be a MMO was in Worlds of Draenor, and that's what it was, because I was like way younger than what I was right now. And since I played 2019 Classic, it feels again like, okay, this is an MMO. This is really like even private service. Like I played Nostarius and I played Light's Hope. So obviously, I already knew what MMO was, but I never like really like stood still and thought about like what do I want to do with my gaming time, because obviously it's a hobby. So I wanna have fun what I'm doing, and what is the most satisfying thing to do? Well, to be surrounded with people that do care about the progression and the economics and the ecosystem around the server, and like bragging rights, kind of like it is kind of silly because at the end it's only pixels, but like looking at someone that you have like encountered while leveling and looking at his gear and looking like, oh damn, he actually progressed to that point and he actually got some good pieces of loot. Or my first time I got my Viscag on my warrior, was really cool, although I felt like once I have looked into numbers, it feels like, okay, yeah, it's just a weapon. It doesn't really like do too much to me, in my opinion. Like my DPS didn't change too drastically, but it is a cool weapon. But once I had my Ashkani on my warrior, that was like, okay, now I'm popping off in PvP. But again, like it only depends on how the anniversary servers are like looking. But for me, it's still MMO. And I feel like if they didn't botch the anniversary servers, in my opinion, they are botched. If they didn't botch the anniversary servers on the economic side, on the player side, because I think there's too many bots for the amount of real players they are. The economics is really busted. Like some raiding nights can be very expensive, especially since AQ, because you have that many raiding nights or that many wipes that can happen. It can be very expensive, and I feel like they could have done all of the changes way sooner as well. So yeah, it feels like a bit pointless. Is it like pointless? I don't know. I'm going to walk to the Shaw of Anger because I was actually waiting for that. Um, I I feel like that aside, still I think Classic is way better time spent. Now the truth is, if Classic Plus comes out tomorrow, like on Blizzard, like Blizzard says, oh Classic Plus, here you go, or like the announcements at the Gamescom is that 3 weeks later Classic Plus is coming out. You will not see me on Miss Pandoria again, or you will not see me on the anniversary or even TBC again, because Classic Plus, I think, if it's done really right, is the only way you could play the game going forward. In my opinion, if you're like a retail fan or a Classic fan, I think that's the most new thing, out of the box thing that can be happening from Blizzard side. And if you play on private servers or if you play on Blizzard servers, everyone is going to look at Classic Plus with a big eye and a big like monoscope, like microscope, like trying to fetch all details around Classic Plus. Now, is it going to be like data mined? Yes. Is it going to be like min maxed? Of course. I think we're like living into a technology and information like era where not all things can be very much of a surprise. But I still think like if it's classic with a plus, it will be the best MMO that we're going to have since 2006. I just think like right now it depends on Blizzard. It depends on the private service scene as well, because again, if the private service scene is really booming, just makes it like harder for Blizzard to actually not fail. So they're going to put even more devs. They're going to put even more resources, and that's something like I want them to realize. Like this is the market. Like people want it. I think like people on retail, they don't look at classic with like the way it should be looked. They look at it as purely nostalgia, and they think like it's a waste of time. And yes, it is kind of a waste of time on Miss Pandaria, for example, because I know Miss Pandaria is going to end in 1 year and a half max. So what I'm doing right now, am I going to play Worlds of Draenor? No, I'm not going to play that, because I have done that first and foremost, and it's really too recent to me. And I don't care as much on Worlds of Draenor. And frankly, Miss Pandaria, I do care about it because of the PvP. But if it's not for the PvP, I would not be playing it, because the MMO experience is more or well done on Classic, for example. So yeah, that was a bit of a discussion. Like for me, it is worth to play with your time, even if you have little time on Classic or on Miss Pandaria Classic compared to retail. I think a lot of people like are misunderstanding the time spent that you have to do. Yes, you have to level. If you don't like leveling, it kind of sucks. That's true. But it means that you don't like a big part of the game that was there to begin with. Like, how did you level before? Like, haven't you done any leveling before? Well, like, did you start at BFA? Like, that's something that you have to realize for yourself. A lot of people that are saying, like, Classic is not for them, they haven't played Classic ever, right? Maybe they have played it once and they don't like the gameplay. That's fair. People can not like the gameplay, and that's okay to not like the gameplay. But I think like if you're talking about MMO and how it is, like I truly think it is the best MMO in the market. Even better than retail. I think retail is one of the best games on the market right now if you're looking about an RPG, like an online RPG, but it is nowhere near MMO to me. Like the social experience is just not there. It is just not present, and I don't feel like it will ever be present until they do drastic changes, which I don't think it will ever happen. So that was pretty much my 2 cents. Let me know what you think about the video. Let me know what you think about retail, Classic, Miss Pandaria Classic, Classic Plus. What are you playing currently? What is for you worth your time? Like, truly, if you're playing Classic, do you feel like you're not wasting time? Or do you think like it's way more well spent? Let me know, because I truly feel like whenever I'm spending time on Classic, even if it's like leveling my characters, I don't feel like I'm wasting my time, because I'm actually like enjoying the part of the leveling and the end game and everything around it. Like I don't raid log whenever I'm playing Classic. Now I'm not playing Anniversary currently. That's the truth, because I have too much thing going on. Oh, that's a long... I'm so dead. Yeah. I'm stunned. Can I? Oof, I'm alive. I'm not playing Anniversary right now because truly I am fatigued on Classic. I just want the Plus right now. But it's not because like I don't like Classic. It just is like there is too much things going on right now for me to play. For example, Miss Pandaria Classic and Classic Plus from Project Epoch, or even Bronzebeard, or even Embershire if you're thinking about TWoW. But truly, like if you ask me, do you prefer to play on private server compared to a like Blizzard server? I prefer Blizzard server because it is way more scalable. because it will happen that Blizzard Classic Plus is going to overtake the market like by a long shot. And the time spent that you're going to have on TWoW or Project Epoch is going to be not wasted, but like it's, oh, do I have an item? No item for me, only gold. And 18 gold for that matter. Wow, that's really tragic. Anyways, yeah, I wanted to end this video like this. It's not going to be a monologue about like like private server versus Blizzard, so that's not really what I wanted to do. So again, thank you for watching. Have a great day. Bye.